We are live, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and student attendees. This is my proud privilege to welcome our beloved CA Anand Jangid sir for this session. I welcome you, sir,
Thank you, sir.
and I welcome Srishti, Sikasa office bearer, and then I welcome all the student attendees for this session. And yeah, without taking much of your time, I would like Srishti to introduce our beloved speaker for the day. Go ahead, Srishti. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, ma. Yes, ma.
Thank you. Amendments are tune, and attempts is just a flow, and chartered accountancy is nothing but the story of legends. With this quote, happy evening to one and all present here. I, Srishti Charger, Secretariat SSF Forum, Sikasa, Bengaluru. I welcome you all on behalf of Bangalore branch of Sikasa to today's live webinar on smart approach to face CA exams day 6 with a special focus on EIS, Enterprise Information System. Now, let me introduce today's passionate, evangelist person for tech-based disruption in audit and finance domain. He is a chartered accountant and a certified information system auditor. He was a part of risk management team at Goldman Sachs. He has been involved in enterprise risk management, implementation, and IT audit for many international projects at USA, UK, Japan, and China. Yes, guys, he's none other than CA Anand Prakash Jangid. So, I would now I would like to take privilege to welcome today's speaker, CA Anand Prakash Jangid, sir. Oh, sir.
Thank you, Shrishti. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Manjunath sir, and Bangalore branch for the opportunity. Always, I have been, when I was my student time, I was also part of Sikasa. So reminds me of my whole time. And so when I see Shrishti, I can remember those time we used to have also. So friends, I thought today's discussion, I was talking to Manjunath sir, and we were actually thinking whether we should have a death by PowerPoint, that I make you a PowerPoint and take you through that, or whether we check practically in terms of what are the things which are happening in this subject. I know for sure EIS is one subject which a lot of students face a little bit of challenge, because I'll be talking about the new scheme first and the old scheme later, because this is the last event for the old scheme, so I'll also talk about that. But in the new scheme, guys, I really, uh, have all my best wishes to you, because how many of you are aware of that EIS and in the new scheme and ITSM or IT in the old scheme, our institute has added for you also the material from final ISCA material also has been added to you. So you are actually going to study a lot of content compared to what our old scheme friends will be studying. Now, having said that, it's actually a kind of good thing also. It's also a bad thing also. It's a good thing because you are going to go for a lot of advanced things, which are going to be very helpful for you in your real life work. And I'll actually explain you all the chapters and everything. I just thought I will actually take you through the institute material only and tell you what are the key things which we need to understand. And second thing is also a little tough also, because the content is very high. Too much of content is there for you for 50 marks. ROI, if you try to see, it is not an easy thing. So the expectations is tough. I know that, but it's also very easily a scoreable mark. When I compare, I'm sorry, I'm using one other subject also. Like, I used to be a student just like you, so I understand that. When I compare it with costing, it is like 100 times better, because you can still score marks. In costing, I never used to finish my 100 marks paper. It used to be very tough. And I used to be always very scared about costing paper. And I don't know, now students' faces like how it is. But EIS is a subject which is a more of a practical subject. And if you do a little bit of planning, friends, I can assure you, scoring 33 marks in EIS is a very easy approach if you follow something which I'm going to tell you here. Before I jump into my content and show it to you and other things, the first and foremost thing I would request all my CA friends, students friends, that please use our institute material. I'm not telling you because it's an institute program. The reason is, friends, I know there are a lot of books and there are summarization of that is there. But if you have noticed the last 2 attempts or 3 attempts question paper, there is no pattern that it will come from here or important topics. It can come from anywhere. With MCQ questions, we have seen that in the last 3 attempts, as well as the other questions also. It's very, very unpredictable in terms of where the content will come. So as a student, I would say if you would like to prepare for it, and if you give like, for EIS around 60 hours, it's much more than enough. You can easily cover it in a very, very well way. So the idea is we should know what is the way the expectations are. If you notice the material, our institute expectation has changed from just knowing stuff to applying that knowledge. Applying the knowledge basically means we should be knowing what these things are doing and why it is important. So you have to go to the fundamentals. Okay. Now let me share my screen with you. And just a moment. So as you can see, friends, okay, this is the material which has been, and one very important thing for all my friends, which I would like to tell you. If you are writing this examination, I hope you know your material has changed. If you are having any material before October 2020, please discard that and take the new material which is available on our institute website. It's very important. A lot of things have changed. A lot of content has been reduced, as well as a lot of new content has been added. Otherwise, you will see, oh, I didn't know where this information has come from. Okay. So it's very important for us to be aware of that there is a kind of information which has changed. The material has been updated in October 2020, which is last year. And from this attempt onward, this material is applicable. So it's very important we, go with that. That is point number one. I just thought I'll let you know, guys. So, 1 minute. Second thing, which I would like to talk about is what is the expectation. Now, if you know, old scheme guys has a lot of other material like suggested answers and all thing. The objective, if you see, of this material, which is very much in line with what our institute would like all our students to understand and know, is on this one. What is that? They want us to develop an understanding of technology enabled system, first thing, and see the most important thing: enterprise processes, risk and control. Guys, all of you are the future chartered accountant. And when we read this material, you need to understand one very important thing: why our institute is insisting that you have a good understanding of information systems, as well as the impact on enterprise processes, risk and control. First point I will tell you. Today, if you go anywhere, there is no organization which is going to have manual books of account. So even if you are doing manual books of account entries and accounts and all the thing, ultimately all these things will be working on information systems. If we don't have an understanding of information system, you will not be able to do any of the tasks which we are actually supposed to do as chartered accountant. And on top of that, I don't know how many of you have gone to the definition of internal control as per SA 315. If you read the definition of internal controls as per SA 315, which talks about internal control as policy, procedure, practices, and organization structure put into place to help organization achieve organization goals, responsibility, and other things. Ensure the risks are managed between the risk appetite and all the risks are prevented, detected, corrected. All that definition we have been all aware of. If you have seen the definition which has been updated in SA 315, there is a new term which has been added to this definition. It says, and internal control include IS control, information systems control. So when you move on an IT environment, the risks are different. When the risks have changed, we have to understand this information system clearly. And when I say the information system, we have to understand clearly, guys. Please understand it from a very important perspective of what we call it as. Think of, would you ever audit or certify a books of account which is written by pencil? No, because the integrity of the books are in question. Similarly, in information system, until and unless we are sure about the integrity of the system, because this is a fundamental assumption, we cannot go ahead and do any of them. And it has an impact on multiple things. Enterprise-wide processes. That's why you have the first chapter only, automated business processes. And you will notice in chapter 1 and 2, there are a lot of this terminology like O2C, P2P, order to cash, procure to pay cycle, and all that kind of things have been clearly mentioned. And also in module 1 and 2, friends, if you have seen, we have a clear concept of risk and control. What are the different risks? What are the controls? And we need to keep this all in our mind when we are doing it. So let me just try to give you the summary of what is covered in our material. One of the things, the first chapter is all about what we call it as automated business process. I'll be going into that chapter also and telling you the most important areas. But friends, this chapter and chapter 2 are very much interrelated chapters. One of the things which I would highly recommend you to go through is before start of every chapter, there is a kind of an overview given, as a flow chart which is given out kind of thing. That is very important because you can take out the last 3 attempts examination paper. Most of the questions, I would say you can see 80% of the questions are somehow related to the line item which is mentioned out there. 80%. And I don't know if you have seen it properly. Directly from your material, from your institute material, directly, if I include EIS and SM together, on the 100 marks, 14 marks question has come directly on an average in last 3 attempts. Every time 14 marks directly from the questions which are there in your material only. Now, this is like not a coincidence. It's a way of institute telling that, okay, if you are covering my material, I'll give you a bonus. So don't leave that bonus out there. If you are covering all the materials of institute, you are 100% sure of at least having 14 to 15 marks coming directly from that. So that is something which is a very important. Okay. One more thing which is a lot of times students leave out before I go into all the chapters and everything. And this is my important thing. When you are making flow charts, you have flow charts which is there, and every alternate examination or every once or twice we are having flow charts coming out there. In flowcharts, one of the things which our students are doing a very grave mistake, which I have seen every time, many a time they have done it, is what? Basically, we are using pencil to draw the flowchart. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but pencils are strictly prohibited in examination. You are not supposed to, if you make a flowchart with pencil, friends, it's very tough. In fact, the head examiner can say that no marks has to be allocated to them. And with the scanning and other things which is happening, you have to make sure this silly mistakes we should not do, because even last time there have been a report when the examiner comments, they have found there are people who are using pencils to make flowcharts, which is not acceptable. You have to use pen even for making. Maybe initially you can do it and work it out, but these are the things which are there. So we have 5 chapters, not a big deal, but some of them are very, very important. Some of them are. If I have to group it for you, I will group chapter 1 and 2 together. When you're reading chapter 1 and 2, it is all about business processes, risk, and related areas. And I'm telling you, friends, the whole idea why it is being done differently is they start with process, but they move on to financial and accounting system, which are like ERPs and all the things, how they work. Okay. And there is some connection between module 5 also, because core banking system is all there. And there is a kind of a connection which we need to be aware of, which is also very, very important. Chapter 3 is the most technical chapter which you can find out, because here they talk about information systems and its component, as well as the whole concept of ITGC, ITAP controls and other things, which is again a very important thing. And I would say it's a very, very technical chapter, which students sometimes find is problematic, but if you go with the right approach, it can be easily handled. Chapter 4 is the scoring chapter. If you have been seeing this, many MCQ questions comes from this chapter, because emerging tech is all about cloud computing, BYOD, green technologies and all the things. And to some extent on e-commerce and m-commerce, though there are questions on e-commerce, m-commerce are only on the case study side, we are getting it. But it is something which you can actually look into as a scoring chapter. And the last but not least, core banking system. As chartered accountant, all of you know, and if you are doing your articleship, I'm sure you have got a chance to work with banks and everything. And banks have their own ERP in terms of the core banking system, which we installed at centralized online real-time environment. And the core banking systems has to be looked into. Though this chapter 5 looks like a technology chapter, it is only 10% technology, and rest of them is all about banking processes. You need to understand the banking processes, like terminology which we call CASA. In Canada, I know we call CASA as money, but here it is current account and saving account. So those things, we need to have a good understanding of this and try to work it out. So friends, these are the 5 chapters. If we go with the right approach, I think we can make a very good killing in terms of our marks. I would say, 33 marks is easily doable. I'll explain you also how, and then we can actually discuss more in detail. Okay. Coming to your second paper on strategic management. Okay. Now here also from the old scheme, there is lot of change which has happened. Friends, just for your understanding, this material has also been revised. A lot of things has been removed, which was there earlier. So you should actually use the new material. You can download it from our institute website. Now here we have 8 chapters. And you know what is the most interesting thing, guys, which is like about the new material very much. Now it is very to the point. It has been made into a way where we start with introduction to strategic management. What is there in strategic management? We start with the competitive strategy, which is nothing but understanding the core competence and your competitive landscapes and information on SWOT analysis and other things. The third one is strategic planning or strategic, management processes, which covers your, vision, mission, and objective of organization, and how organization can make their own strategies. Then we have the most interesting. You have like corporate level, function level strategy. So you are drilling down to the next level. So then we have our corporate level strategies, where you are trying to take the concept of what strategies corporate can come up with. Mergers, acquisition, growth, retrenchment. Hey, it's like a nice. I don't know if you have watched this movie, Wall Street, or The Wolf of Wall Street. Any of those things, you will find these terms very interesting, because these are kind of things which are done. So how do you make your business work? You are trying to put yourself in this CEO shoes and try to work it out. So that is the corporate level strategy. At the corporate level, what we can do. Then you go one level down at the business level, what you can do, because in a corporate will have different functions. They will have SBUs and all things. So each of the business functions at the business level, can we have more competitive strategies? There are generic strategies from Michael Porter's. There are cost strategies, different kind of things which you can actually work out. Chapter 6 is all about strategy at function level. At marketing, what you can do. Financial level, what strategy you can put it up there. Operation strategy, what you can put it up. Human resource, how to attract the best of the human resource and all things. And R&D, which is there. Chapter 7 is all about how your organization structures are there. So only thing which we have to cover is different types of organization structure, very simple out there. And like, you have SBUs, strategic leadership, and the final one is how do we implement strategies? Because making a strategy is very easy, but implementing is very tough. So you need to talk about change in strategy, implementation, audit of that, whether it's working fine or not. Business process reengineering, how do we make sure it is like the business process are working in the best way possible? So all these things are part of this 8 chapters. So friends, it's I would say strategic management have become easy for you. EIS has become tougher for you. So we'll spend a little more time on EIS and less time on SM, because I know most of our students say, sir, we know everything about SM. But there are some important points which I want to highlight it up. It's all about the presentations of, information. How do we do that? Okay. Let me, friends, open one of the next. I will just go one by one, all the 5 chapters, and take you through that quickly. So the first chapter is automated business processes. Okay. And friends, feel free to ask me questions if you have any. I'll be more than happy to answer it. Any specific query you may have about the sections or the content, feel free. I'm more than happy to actually do it. And we will ensure it up that we cover also the old scheme part, because old scheme we will be taking after 1 hour or 5 minutes break, and then maybe later we'll take the old scheme also and cover it for you. Okay. So automated business processes, friends, the first thing I want you to cover is always see this part. This is the overview. And I don't know if you are subscribed to our Chartered Accountant Students magazine. I think there was around 6-7 months back, there was an issue on EIS. If you don't have it, just ping me. I will be more than happy to share it with you. That issue is very interesting because most of the content which is there required in all the chapters, they have actually given a kind of a very easy graph out there which you can actually use it and learn it up very well. So the first thing in the business processes they have talked about is automating business processes. What are the different types of business processes? Operational, supporting, and management. So operational is what the company does or the organization do. So when I talk about what are the organization processes which are there, and if you go through the content out there, you will notice one very interesting thing out there, friends. They will talk about that any kind of business process which the organization is doing to make it, revenue is like the main thing. For banks, it is banking. For manufacturing it is manufacturing. This is what we call the operational uh, processes, the categories of that. Second is supporting or business enable function, like finance, audit, or HR. They are all supporting function. They are not the primary function of the business. They are supporting the business in terms of doing what it is supposed to take care of that. Okay. And then there is an overview of this. Overview basically is what we cover in the management of that category. So these are like, let's say budgeting. This is a management exercise. We are trying to have an overview of how the budgets are being used and taken care of. I hope that covers that up. Second, friends, automation. Now here I would like to little bit of go down here and just show you. This is very important because they have mentioned some very interesting thing about that. This is all business processes and how the business processes work. And these are the categories of business processes which we talked about. Operational, which are also called as the primary and other things. Now coming to the automation, friends, this part is, please mark it as little important, especially BPA, business process automation. This is a terminology which is still very active now. And this are the factors which are affecting BPA, which is the fundamental of information security or information management. It's called as confidentiality, integrity, availability, and timeliness, CIAT. And you can use it at any point of time in terms of managing it. Okay. So this is the things which we need to do it. Okay. I'll go back here so that we can cover it very quickly, guys, because there are a lot of content is there. I can't go into each of the things. So let me just show the important part, which is important for you from examination perspective. So automation part is going to be important, especially the BPA part, and that is something which you should be aware of. Then comes risk management and controls. Now, risk management, what do we mean by that? See, when I do any processes, there are going to be risks. The definition of risk is an event which has a potential to impact organization goal and strategy implementation in a negative way. That is what we call it as risk management. Now, it's there that in risk management, we cover everything. Identification of the risk, then quantification of the risk, and ranking of the risk. So identification of risk is, let's say we are sitting in this room. What can go wrong? That is what we call it as identification of the risk. Okay. Now, second thing which we do is, okay, this is great. This thing can go wrong, but what is the probability and impact of that? That is analysis of that. Okay. So I am trying to do it from a perspective of that what is the probability of this thing. Let's say we are sitting in a room and I say the risk is there that there may be earthquake. Now, what is the probability of earthquake? It may be on a scale of 0 to 10, it can be 5. But what would be the impact? If I'm staying in a high-rise building, the impact is going to be very high. The chances of me surviving is very less, right? So I'll say, okay, the impact may be 8. Now, based on this, the total score which I got, I can give a ranking of risk that it is a high risk, medium risk, and all thing. So this is the part of risk identification, risk analysis, and risk ranking. For the risk, I need to put controls in place. And guys, whatever I'm discussing, this will come in chapter 2 also. So it's very important we understand it, because we are right now talking about business process risk management and control. There is going to be another thing called IS risk management and control. So in examination, I will tell you, most of the time when students comes to me and say, sir, this is, I got marks less, I work very hard. When I read their certified copy, sometimes I feel they have given the right answer for a wrong question. The answer is right, but it is not meant for that question. So please read the questions carefully, my friends. Okay, this is very important, especially in this one, because the interpretation can be different by you. Unless you have covered the whole material, you will not be able to cover it up in detail. You know, you should be like a champ out there. As a champion, we should know everything about that. So the controls would be something which we can actually ensure it out. The risk is either mitigated or accepted or it is transferred. These are all control. Preventive control, detective control, corrective control. These are all types of controls which has to be commented on. Then in this chapter, we have all the specific business processes which we should be aware of. Very important, friends. It's a very important thing which I would suggest you, because these are all the things which are going to be important in chapter 2. When you talk about ERP, these are the processes which are called used in ERP also. And our institute is doing its best that we understand the importance of this terminology which is there, how it is used, and what are the things. So the first one is called procure to pay cycle. Procure to pay is basically, if you want, it is nothing but a purchase cycle. So in a purchase cycle, what happens? I start with the requisition, then I will go to getting the purchase orders. Once I get a purchase order, I will issue the purchase order to the vendors. Once I give the purchase order, I would have a good receipt note, GRN. The goods will be received. Once I have received the goods, friends, what next? I'll get the invoice, and once the invoice is there, I'll pay the vendor. So it's a procure to pay cycle. Now in this also, you can see that there are some part which are automated, some part which are semi-automated, and some part which are manual. Like three-way matching before the payment is done, matching the PO amount and quantity actually received amount. And let's say for example, you have also the invoice amount and quantity. This will be a semi-automated control. I'm checking it from the system, but there may be a human intervention to that. Issuing of the PO may be automated control, so I need to check for that and manage it. Second one is called invent or order to cash, which is the sales cycle. In sales cycle, friends, what happens is start from what we call it as starting with the sales order from the client. Then I will check it out whether I have it in my stock. If it is there in my stock, I'll try to go for dispatch. If it is not there, I'll ask the manufacturing team to manufacture it. Then I will actually do the dispatching. Once the dispatch is done, I'll send the invoice and then I'll receive the money. So order to cash. So this is the kind of a sales cycle. Then the inventory cycle, how I am procuring the inventory, how I am converting it from raw material to finished goods. That would be covered in my inventory cycle, which is mentioned out there. Then friends, we have human resource management, and this is called hire to retire. From the time I hire a person, so I will basically get them into the system, their name, their age, their resume, everything, and I'll hire them. Then I will take them for all the things. You have some charts which are mentioned out there. I would highly recommend it to you. And whenever you are presenting your answers, friends, please remember, it's a big misconception among students that you should give a direct answer to every question. No. Even when you are writing an answer here, please try to make sure you do your homework. What is that? First, every marks demands 1.6 minutes. Are you aware of that, right? Because you have totally how much time for your 100 marks? We have totally how much? 180 minutes, yeah. So 60, 60, 60. But you leave some part for that. So we usually call it 1.6 minutes per marks is the time. So you need to do the allocation because there are a lot of questions which are given which will look like a very big answer, but you have to do the justice to the marks which is allocated to that. So it's very important we check for this and then only we try to do that. So these are the things which is covered in the human resource thing. And in the human resource also, friends, they have mentioned all the processes and all the things how it has to be done. Then fixed asset. Fixed asset is about how do you get the asset into them. So anything which will be a fixed asset is basically nothing but it would be a what we call it as capital WIP, okay, work in progress, which is converted to fixed asset, or I would have procured a fixed asset, though there will be a procurement things. We need to look into that. General ledgers, we all know general ledgers, how the journal entries has to pass, how the entries has to be managed and all the things. How we basically, summarize the ledgers. We take it to the trial balance, from the trial balance P&L account, and then to the balance sheet, and how the closure happened. That has to be looked into. So friends, these are the business processes are there, and I'm sure you can do pretty good. Make sure whenever you're presenting an answer, try to make a small chart of whatever you're trying to explain it. See, it'll hardly take you 1 or 2 minutes, even if you don't have to make it very beautiful over there. With your free hand, you can just make a chart. That basically showcase to the examiner that you have understood the concept and your concept understanding is being showcased there. I know there are some question which is requires the keyword. We call that as keyword question because there are few questions nowadays. Very less questions are coming in the new scheme, but in old scheme we still have that question where the examiner will be searching for the keyword. After writing the keyword, you can even write I'm hungry. I didn't have lunch. No one is bothered, but the keyword should come to get your marks. That is not the case in the new scheme. So new scheme is more of application of knowledge. So you need to show that you have understood it well. See, whether you have studied for 3 hours or 300 hours, doesn't matter. It all depends what you do in the 3 hours. So the presentation part has to be very well managed. I hope this is clear, friends. Going to the next point of diagrammatic representation, you have flowcharts. For flowcharts, I would highly recommend you. Our institute has a collection of flowcharts which you can download it from the website of our institute. It is all the flowchart which has come from 2016 onwards. If you practice that, friends, it is more than enough. I would suggest you. That is there are no flowchart apart from that which will come. And this is, if you want, I can just show it to you also. This flowchart, what are they? Just a minute. This is a publication of institute only. It's not something which is different. Just a minute. You would need a minute. Just show it to you. This publication, please download it from our institute website, and that would be enough for you. That you don't require anything else. Okay, here we go. This is one publication of institute where they have given even from 2004. You can see all the flowcharts which has come in examination. All the flowcharts are there. It's a 31 pages document which you can download from. Just search for suggested flowcharts old scheme. You will find it up on the website of institute. If you can cover all this flowchart, friends, all the questions which are there, more than enough. You don't require anything else. And others are all even theory questions. So all the flowchart which you can think of which could come in examination, is out here, and if we can cover this part, this is more than enough. Okay. So this is, friends, what we need to understand here. Then we have some regulatory compliance to add, and you need to understand one very important thing, friends. Here, you know what is the most important thing which I would like to tell you? Two things. First, here you will be covering Companies Act and IT Act, but not from an act perspective. They are not looking that you understand, Companies Act or not, because for that we have separate, chapters are there. So Companies Act is there in your auditing also. It is here also. Here we are trying to do in Companies Act, what are the two sections which are very important from risk and control, because there is a section on IFC, internal financial controls. So the two sections are section 134 and 143. Do you remember these sections, friends? 134 and 143. One is what the director's responsibilities are there. One is auditor's responsibilities. So those are the things we need to go deep into and understand it as a part of the things. Okay. So it's very important that you go through this. And in IT Act, friends, there is a requirement from a perspective of some of the legal, point which are there in IT Act, like how the business process has to be there, what is, what we call as IT governance and all things. The terminology you have to know it. If anyone asks me that for this subject, do I need to know the sections and all things? Not really, friends. That is all which is there in chapter 1. Okay. I hope you are clear. It's a big chapters, guys. 105 pages. Okay. So you need to be very careful when you are actually going through it. We should make sure that we don't, lose anything or leave behind anything in terms of dealing with it. Let me go to the next one on this one, which is very important. This is chapter 2. Chapter 2 is all about financial and accounting system. So friends, when we are talking about financial and accounting system, here we need to understand that the objective is taking you from the same thing. You have first learned business processes. Now you are trying to see how these business processes are implemented in accounting and financial systems. So it's basically on the system, how do you put it up there? So we have two terminology which is very important here: integrated and non-integrated system. See, non-integrated systems are nowadays no more there. Non-integrated system is basically called island of computing. So when we say island of computing, friends, is something like this. Earlier, what used to happen is people used to just say, okay, this department has this, system. This department has this system. So that used to work on a non-integrated way. They were not having a single database, single way. Then people thought, okay, we need to have one system only. So they came out with something which we call it as an integrated system, which is nothing but an ERP, where it has having a single database, single flow. So everyone has a single source of truth. And that is something which is covered in integrated or non-integrated system. Got my point? The second point which is there is how the business process module, which we discuss in chapter 1, like P2P, O2C, how they are integrated into financial and accounting system, how they are talking to each other. And that part is very important, friends, because if I have to just take you through that, here we go. They talked about, concept like, I'm just trying to show it to you here: master data, non-master data, what are the thing, how the transaction processing. As chartered accountant students, you already aware of this, but this master data and transactional data, how it is setting it up, just like what you have done in Tally also. We set up accounting master there, right? We set up inventory master also. We set up the payroll master and also the GST dates and everything. So how do we master data is set and how the transactions are processed? All these kind of things are covered in this integration with, financial and accounting system. Then we have the reporting system, because ultimately there is an output of which has to come somewhere. So this output, how do we use it up? So there is management information systems. What are the different points in management information system which we have to take care of that? What are the key options which is going to be impacting us? We need to understand that. Okay. Last in this one is data analytics and business intelligence, and this will come again in another chapter. So friends, in one way, I would say institute is trying to make sure that Nothing about one area is covered in this one part. They will always have, the point of having connections with other subjects, and other things are being always managed. And that is something which we should be aware of. Data analytics is big, and there are a lot of interesting questions coming from that. And you have to know what is the difference between data analytics and business intelligence, because business intelligence is known as a software and data analytics is known as a process. So when we talk about business intelligence, it is a system. It is a system which will do, getting patterns for you, figuring it out. And data analytics is a process. Here, one term is very important, guys, which has come twice in examination. That term is called as ETL, extract, transform, load. And you should be very, very careful to know about that. They want to know fundamentally whether the students have understood it or not. Okay. Then we have some, applicable regulatory compliance requirement on this, what you have to do it, how you have to work it out. But most important is our concept of XBRL. Okay, what is XBRL, guys? Okay, let me tell you. A lot of people I've heard, they have just left these things, have not gone through it. I don't know why. It is one of the easiest stuff which is there in your material. Though this number of pages are, around 82 pages, I would say it may be around 6 to 7 pages. And XBRL, one question will come. You know why? Because XBRL is in India promoted by our institute only. XBRL India is actually housed in our institute office only in Delhi. So XBRL stands for Extensible Business Reporting Language, which is an XML based reporting language. If I have to tell you very simply what it is, then friends, I can tell you that it is nothing but, have you gone to Facebook and tagged picture of your friends out there? Yes or no? All of us have done it. Now, why do you tag the picture? So that anyone who comes there can see the same, what we call it as, information about whatever you are trying to do. So single source of truth. Now imagine the same information in financial statement. If I have to compare two accounts, let's say Infosys and Wipro, in one company they will put printing and stationery expenses together. In one they will put printing stationery separately, stationery as separately. Okay. Now, how do I have a single source of truth to compare it up? So these people thought, why can't we tag this financial data in financial statement? Tag means we would have a kind of a taxonomy. A taxonomy is nothing but it's a dictionary. So wherever the word printing is coming, I will try to see what is the relevant tag in my taxonomy, and along with that, I will tag it up. So what happens is automatically I can do a very good comparison between multiple statement of financial statement which has been submitted. In India, MCA is asking for that, RBI is asking for that. XBRL is going to be the future. It is also called as the barcode for accounting language, or a barcode where you can read the barcode and you got all the information about that financial. So it becomes machine readable document, and XBRL is actually a very important thing. So remember some terminology there. Taxonomy, they can ask question on that. What is the definition of XBRL? What XBRL does? What is the benefit of that? What is the benefit for regulator? What is the benefit of that? All of that things can be asked as a question. So this is the things which you should remember. So that's all in module 2, guys. It's a very simple module. Though it looks very heavy, I would say you can actually easily cover it up in a very short time, and there won't be any problem at all. Okay, let me go to the next chapter. Okay, one moment. Chapter 3. Now, chapter 3, friends, is a little big chapter, and it also covers a lot of technical terminology. The first part it covers is what is the information systems. So friends, you need to understand when we talk about information systems, we are talking about what we call it as how information systems work. So first, what is a system? A system is nothing but a group of interrelated components working together for a common goal. So human body is also a system. If I take the brain out, will it work? It will work, but you're a brain dead person then. Or if I take out the heart out, will it work? Maybe it will work, maybe it not. So similarly, an information system is a system which takes input, process, and give output on information data, which is nothing but data is nothing what we call it as, but raw facts and figure. So for information systems to work, what are their components? So we start with first people. Not all people, the people who use the information system and who manage it. Only those people are important. Because if these people are not there, your information systems will not work. Other people are liability for us. They are not even assets. They are liability for us. But the people who manage and use these systems, they are important and we have to take them as a people resource. Second, we all have been using it, a computer which consists of your hardware and software. And in hardware, there is one terminology they always ask is what are different types of input, what are different types of output things, what is the memory, what is the paging file. These are some of the kind of question which will come. And in software, friends, we have discussion on application software and what we call system software, which is nothing but operating systems. So this is what which is covered out there, and I'm sure you can very well cover it up. Only remember, operating system is nothing but an interface between user and machines. That is the impact of having a kind of a software system. Okay. Then comes, friends, our data resources. When we call it data resources, we are talking about the database where the data is stored. So how we are using it, they have mentioned about some different types of database structured, like hierarchical structure, network structure, and all things. You should cover it up. It is important from examination perspective. And the complex thing come is network and communication system. And friends, it's a area where I find most of the time students telling me, sir, this is the concept I have not understood. I would request you that this is an important one. You should understand how does a router works, what is a work of this, and if required, maybe I can actually show you a small video on this, because this is very important that we understand this concept clearly. Okay, maybe I'll share you a link which you can actually go through it to understand it better. Okay, then comes, friends, another thing which I was telling you, controls. And when we are talking about the controls, this is very important, guys. Huh? We are talking about the controls classification. So first, what are the controls? What is the classification of the control? So classification can be done on three perspectives based on objective of the control. Based on objective of the control, it can be what we call it as preventive control, detective control, and corrective control. All of you have heard about this classification, I'm sure about that. Based on nature of information resource, we have physical security control, logical security control, and environmental control. And if I have to go on audit function, then it is managerial control and application control. Though it is mashed out here, it should have been actually mashed this way. Okay, this is a little mistake in the thing. Please make a note of this one, guys. It is like these two are, let me just underline this. So these two are linked to audit function. These three are linked to nature of resources. Okay, and the preventive, detective, corrective part has not been given out there. So remember this part important out there. Okay, now let's go one by one into this one, environmental control. Friends, there are in the material, if you go through it, they have given first what are the risk of environment, like fire. See, when we are talking about this whole concept out here, you need to keep in mind what are we trying to protect. Okay, so let's say, for example, I want to show you a understanding of a database. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about database, but if you have understood that there is a kind of a database, there is also one term called data center. And what do a data center do? A data center is a place where you have rows upon rows upon rows servers. And when we are discussing here all these things, we are talking it from a perspective of them. So unless and until you understand what is the data center we are talking about, you will not understand it. So let me just play a small video, 1 minute. Here we go. Two videos I want to show you. Okay, just a minute. And then we will be able to understand it better what we are trying to discuss. So it's a small video, guys. Just have a look at that. It's basically example of how a data center looks like. Okay.
A data center is the brains of the internet, the engine of the internet.
It is a giant building with a lot of power, a lot of cooling, and a lot of computers.
It's row upon row upon row of machines, all working together to provide the services that make Google function.
Of building and operating data centers. I'm Joe Cava, Vice President of Data Centers at Google. I'm responsible for managing the teams globally that design, build, and operate Google's data centers. We're also responsible for environmental health and safety, sustainability, and carbon offsets for our data centers. This data center here in South Carolina is one node in a larger network of data centers all over the world. Of all the employees at Google, a very, very small percentage of those employees are authorized to even enter a data center campus. The men and women that run these data centers keep them up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are incredibly passionate about what they're doing.
In layman's terms, what do I do?
I typically refer to myself as the herder of cats.
I'm an engineer, hard work, site operation. We keep the lights on. We enjoy doing it.
And they work very hard. So we like to provide them a fun environment where they can also play hard as well.
We just went past the 3 million man-hour mark for zero lost time incident. 3 million man-hours is a really long time. And with the number of people that we have on site, that is an amazing accomplishment.
I think the Google data centers really can offer a level of security that almost no other company can match. We have a information security team that is truly second to none. You have the expression, they wrote the book on that. Well, there are many of our information security team members that have really written the books on best practices in information security. Protecting the security and the privacy of our users' information is our foremost design criteria. We use various layers of higher level security the closer into the center of the campus you get. So just to enter this campus, my badge had to be on a pre-authorized access list. Then to come into the building, that was another level of security. To get into the secure core leads to the data center, that's a higher level of security. And the data center and the networking rooms are the highest level of security. And the technologies we use are different. Like for instance, in our highest level areas, we even use underfloor intrusion detection via laser beams. So I'm going to demonstrate going into the secure corridor now. One, I have to be on the authorized list with my badge. And then two, I use a biometric iris scanner to verify that it truly is me. Okay, here we are on the data center floor. First thing that I notice is that it's a little warm in here. It's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Google runs our data centers warmer than most because it helps with the efficiency. You'll notice that we have overhead power distribution. Coming from the outside yard, we bring in the high voltage power distributed across the bus bars to all of the customized bus taps that are basically plugs where we plug in all the extension cords. All of our racks don't really look like a traditional server rack. These are custom designed and built for Google so that we can optimize the servers for hyper efficiency and high performance computing. It's true that sometimes drives fail and we have to replace them to upgrade them because maybe they're just no longer efficient to run. We have a very thorough end-to-end chain of custody process for managing those drives from the time that they're checked out to the server till they're brought to an ultra secure cage where they're erased and crushed if necessary. So any drive that can't be verified as 100% clean, we crush it first, and then we take it to an industrial wood chipper where it's shredded into these little pieces like this. In the time that I've been at Google for almost 6.5 years now, we have changed our cooling technologies at least 5 times. Most data centers have air conditioning units along the perimeter walls that force cold air under the floor that then raises up in front of the servers and cools the servers. In our solution, we take the server racks and we put it right up against our air conditioning unit. We just use cool water flowing through those copper coils that you see there. So the hot air from the servers is contained in that hot aisle. It raises up, passes across those coils, where the heat from the air transfers to the water in those coils. And then that warm water is then brought outside the data center to our cooling plant, where it is cooled down through our cooling towers and returned back to the data center. And that process just repeats over and over again. To me, the thing that amazes me about Google and the data centers is the pace of innovation and always challenging the way we're doing things. So when people say that innovation in a certain area is done, that we've kind of reached the pinnacle of what can be achieved, I just laugh.
So guys, why I showed you this one, it just gives us a perspective in terms of so guys, as you can see, based on this, now we are, we can be sure about how these things are working it out. I hope you can see my screen as shared, right? No. Okay, 1 minute. Okay. Share. Let me share it up once again. Okay, now it's shared. Okay. So friends, I was just talking about this one, environmental control, physical access, logical access. Please understand all these data centers get audited, multiple times. Okay. How responsible is an organization failure on information system structure? Supple. Okay, so Sampath, your question, I'll be answering it as we take it up. First, let me finish this part, and that's a very good question you have asked. Okay, so coming back, what we are talking about is environmental controls are all about, like fire, electricity, all of the things. You see, this is like a kind of a factories. And today, all the banks are also actually on data center 24/7. They're working. Our Aadhaar, our important, infrastructure, NSE, BSE, all of that things are working on that thing. So they prefer to have a proper infrastructure out there. So there are proper environmental controls are required. Then we have security controls, which are more from a perspective of what we call it as, how the securities are there. Physical security, logical security. Physical security is actually more from a perspective of what we call it as who can go in, who can do it. Unauthorized person should not enter the premises because they can do harm to the machine. They can take data out. They can have a lot of things. And logical access control is like hackers trying to get control on them. So what are the checks and balances are there? Do we have firewall? Do we have IDS? All the things will be covered in that. Please remember one thing: environmental control, physical security control, and logical access control. From an examination perspective, when you are reading it up, see two perspectives. First, what are the exposure? What can go wrong? And second, whatever can go wrong, what are the controls for that? These are the two things which students have to look into. Then come managerial control, which is also called, you can put in a bracket here, guys, if you want. I'm just trying to cover something for you, which will help you not to go into this. The naming convention of this one is ITGC control, Information Technology General Controls and Application Control. So I'm just covering it for you in one shot. You should remember that. Why? I'll tell you. Managerial controls is nothing but all the processes and everything, like senior management control. There is a term called POLC, planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. What are the things which they are doing in operations? How they are managing the operation? How they are managing, let's say, for example, database thing. All that things will come in managerial controls, and managerial controls along with logical access, physical access, and environmental control is called as IT general controls. This is where it is applicable to the IT environment in general. Overall, it is applicable. So we should be aware of that. And coming to the next part, application control. Application control, we have 6 main parameters. We call it as, if you have understood that, it's called as input, processing, output, boundary, data, and network. So basically, or instead of network, we call it more of communication. So the 6 points which are there are very important concept which we should be aware of, because what it covers out here is that in any application, let's say for example, if you guys are doing income tax, filing, there is an input control. Like if I have to give an example, instead of in the field level control is, if there is a field of PAN number, I cannot put it A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, right? I need to put it in the format of PAN number. Now it is one level of check. Second level of check is, instead of giving your PAN number, if I give my PAN number, it will allow me to generate the XML file. But when I upload it, it will give me an error. So these are all the input control. Boundary control is who can enter into that application. So that application is there. Can I enter into the application? No, yes, that is something which we do. Similarly, processing output and other controls are there. Okay. So friends, this is something which we need to understand from the perspective. And it's very important. This part is going to be a lot of questions comes in this, and you need to focus on that. Coming to, there is a question from Sampath Kumar. He says, how responsible if organization failure on information system architecture? Example, the available system is not effective control. This may not be aware much of an auditor's on technical point of view. Auditors are supposed to know about IS control. If they think that they cannot, rely on the information system structure which is there, then it is their responsibility. They cannot say that, oh, I didn't know it, that's why I not it. Because everything is moved on to that. Your integrity, your management system, your accounting system, Sampath sir, everything is going to be part of the thing. So I already told you, SA 315 clearly says that when you are checking of internal controls, you have to comment. And that's why when auditors are commenting internal control with the commensurate with the size of the business and operating effectively, you are also mentioning about the internal IS controls which are there. So if there are failures, then you have to take responsibility of that. Make sense, Sampath sir? Okay, so this is about chapter number 3. Let me go 1 minute. Let me remove the annotation. Sorry. Go to chapter number 4. Chapter number 4 is e-commerce, m-commerce. Okay, let me tell you guys, m-commerce and e-commerce, you guys are very smart. You know about everything, benefit of this, what happens and all the things. So I'll not go into that, because there is all about components, architecture, process flow diagram, risk and controls, and law and guidelines. And this is something which you can very easily do. If you ask me from examination perspective, I would only request you to cover this part. This is the most important thing here. And risk and control. You don't have to go to the process flow diagram. This is like, how does it happen, that one. As a students, you are very much aware. If you have ever ordered a kind of item from Amazon and Flipkart, I'm sure you are able to easily do it up. But the component architecture, especially the component of e-commerce or architecture of e-commerce, you have to be very careful with this. M-commerce, you can actually ignore it up. Only thing is addition is, it is actually using a mobile device. That is the thing which is there. And apart from that, everything is like you can just do it. Now coming to the main scoring point where you can actually score good marks, friends, and that's the reason I would highly recommend you to go through it. These terminologies are very important. First, cloud computing. But before you go into the cloud computing, you need to understand what is virtualization and grid computing, because they are all known as the father and mother of cloud computing. So if you know the father and mother, the son will be easy to know. Just like if you want to know Ganesha, you have to know Lord Shiva and Parvati also. So virtualization, please remember one term. Virtualization is all about dividing. Let's say, for example, you have one hard disk, but it is shown as C and D drive in your thing. This is virtually two hard disks, but actually it is one hard disk. So when you are dividing some resources, we do virtualization. When we are combining some resources, we call it grid computing. When multiple devices can be connected to make one big device. So it can be a grid. If you see, there is in grid computing, they have given you a kind of samples where one instruction is given and it is divided between multiple devices or computers in the grid. So it's like basically just like electricity grid is there. There is one line is there. Everyone is trying to get information out of that, and they are trying to go for it. That is what we call as grid computing. So now virtualization was basically not real. That's why we call it virtualization. And grid computing, when we brought our resources, unused resources together, we did it up. Both of this brought us to what we call it as cloud computing. And friends, for cloud computing, it was a very interesting thing. Why it was an interesting thing? Let me explain to you. Cloud computing is something where people started saying, can we have computing as utility? So do you own the electricity company? No, you pay for what you use. Many times we are forced to use something which we are not required. So cloud computing tried to say that can we make computing as uh, something we call it as called for. When you want it, you can actually just have it. Okay, that was the whole idea behind having cloud computing. You got my point? So when cloud computing started coming, there was another question which was raised that, okay, how does it help? It is basically, I pay for what I use. There are a couple of features: elasticity in demand. Whatever I require, I will only go for that, and I will not take anything which I don't require. So I will pay for, are the users will be, which is going to happen, it will happen in a way where we can actually have a better control. Okay. You can go to AWS, Amazon Web Services, or Azure, understand more of that. Then we have, friends, what we call it as mobile computing. We have already talked about that. Not going to give green IT. So what is green IT, guys? When I paint all my computers green? No, not like that. Green IT is how can I reduce the impact of using computers? Like instead of having an LED screen, if I'm LCD screen, if I'm having an LED screen, it is much better. Or instead of having that big, boxes of server, you saw that in the example, they are using so much of electricity, right? So how can we make it better? So that is all about green IT. How we can stop wasting of papers, how we can actually make sure every decision is environmental friendly. But whenever you're doing it, we need to take care of that it should not take into account any security issues and all of that. One of the area which comes up next is BYOD, friends, and business. BYOD stand for bring your own device. See, most of you are millennials because you are born after 1990s, and millennials don't like to, you guys are more tech savvy. So basically, you would not like to go for the old machines of the company and all that. You would like to have the best of the thing. So company said, okay, instead of buying a machine and giving to you, we'll pay you a monthly some amount, and you buy whatever you want and you use it. It's a win-win situation. The company thinks that I don't have to worry about anything. You will worry about that. You are happy that, okay, whatever items I require, the laptop or desktop or mobile, I'm using it. So that was the thing. But there are some risks which are there, because what happens is there is risk that the what we call as the BIOD policy has not been properly implemented. You have not done that work which was supposed to be done. Let's say your viruses are coming, anything is that you've not implemented all the things. So the risks are important. You need to basically not worry about the benefit of BYOD, see the risk of BYOD. Okay. Then comes, friends, web 3.0, which is web 1 was the one which was not very interactive. Web 2 was your social media, and Web 3 is what we call IoT, Internet of Things. What is Internet of Things? Today, more than humans, machines are connected to Internet, like your washing machines, your air conditions, and other devices which are connected to it. So what is happening is there is a Internet of Things which has been created, and this is something which is creating a more trouble out there. So how we can control it? What are the checks and balances? That is something which you need to cover it up. And the last point is artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is something which is interesting, and there are questions which is going to come, especially on machine learning. What is machine learning? It's a subset of artificial intelligence. So what is artificial intelligence? The question comes, if you go through it, it is nothing but when a computer can mimic a human. When you are talking to Siri or you are talking to OK Google or Alexa, you are talking to an artificial intelligence scientist. It is basically trying to mimic a human. It's not human. So that is what we call as artificial intelligence. And one of the subset of artificial intelligence is machine learning. So where is machine learning used, friends? Machine learning is extensively used, if you are aware of, in terms of finance and accounting, because machine learning is like teaching a kid. A kid can learn it up. So you do the task multiple times, and with the experience, the machine can work it out. So friends, this is your chapter number 4. Okay, let me quickly go to the last one, core banking system. Core banking system is a very big chapter, but actually it's very small. 90% of the chapter is all about banking things, and what is important, I will try to explain to you, friends. If you can cover it up, that is more than enough. So the first is about component and architecture. So the component is all about core banking system, covers every function which can happen of a bank, and they have given Finnacle's picture out there, so it will help you understand it up better. Risk and controls, friends, you don't have to worry about that. It is the same thing which is there in chapter 2, so you can actually take it from there. And architecture, which is the front end and back end, you have to spend some time. So if you can actually focus on that, I am 110% sure you will be able to cover it in a better way. So content is very high. Then there is a lot of terminology on all the banking process and which you need to cover it up. Questions are going to come from here, friends. There are no other options. So CASA is all about current account, saving account, credit cards, how do they want, how the trade finance works, what is the treasury process, how mortgages are being done, how internal banking process work, and e-commerce transactions are done. Okay. Remember, I was talking about data analytics and business intelligence. It will come in detail in this chapter. So you have to know that it was there in chapter 2 also. It is come in chapter 5 also. So data analytics and business intelligence, friends, you need to be very, very careful about. It's an area where a lot of questions are going to come, and we should be aware of that. And finally, there are some applicable regulatory and compliance requirements. So this is what, friends, you have to cover it up in the examination. It's a very vast syllabus, but I would say if you can go through it, the approach which I would suggest you for EIS is something like that, friends. So the first thing you should do is one reading of the material. Okay. Once you've done the one reading of the material, then you should cover last 4 attempts RTP. But when you are doing this 4 attempts RTP, my sincere request would be please write and answer the question. Don't do just like, oh, I know this answer. No, no, no. I would like you to write an answer, because most of the time our students, they say, sir, I knew everything, but when I was writing, it didn't come at all. You need to practice it, guys. I know we are very much adapted. I also am adapted to work on my keyboard and machines, but for examination to pass, to become a CA, you need to right now write and do it. So please write and practice. It is very, very important. Once you have done your 4 RTPs, I would request you to do the suggested questions, and I hope you know. I don't know how many of you have been to our institute, site where there are a lot of material which has been put. I'm just trying to share it with you so that all of us are on the same page. Just give me a moment. Friends, when you go in a war, you go with everything, right? So my suggestion is, when you're doing it, you can go to this portal of BOS. When you go to the courses and EIS, and please remember, you have the study materials, you have MCQs and case scenario booklet A and B. Please cover both of them. Last 4 attempt revision test paper, you have mock test papers, questions, and suggest an answer. You don't require anything apart from this. This resources is much more than what is required. If you can even cover the whole resources once, end to end, friends, you are done. Okay, this is what we just require to have. Are you clear, guys? Okay, so please focus on only this. This is much more than what is required. MCQ test papers are there. We have question papers, everything what we require. It is more than enough. And I can assure you, friends, one thing: 15 to 20 marks will come directly from here without a chance. Okay, so you can, I'm talking about EIS and SM both together, and that is the thing which I would request you to do. Okay, so please go to the ICI Board of Studies portal and you can actually use it. Okay, let me go back. Okay, so this is your, all the 5 chapters are there. Let me go to SM. So SM, I will actually take it from the main thing only. I'll just try to tell you how you can actually go for it. So as I was telling you, the 8 chapters which are there, you should, the approach in SF is a little different. I know MCQs are same, but when you're presenting your answers, every answer should have an introduction, content, and closure. It is something like you are writing a corporate law question paper. Please remember that. There it is more of a technical part, but here when you are putting it up that you are trying to put yourself in the shoes of a business expert and then you are writing it up there. So it is very important we basically cover it up in there. So the first chapter, as I told you, is all about business policies, which is like introduction to that. Here we talk about what is business strategy, the overall thing, and they have added one very interesting thing: strategic management in government. Now this was not there earlier, and this is something where some questions have been coming for NPO organization, which is not for profit organization also. Second area, which is strategic analysis. This is interesting because here you are trying to do SWOT analysis, internal and external analysis. How do we get a competitive edge? So this areas, a lot of MCQ question come in module 2. So if you're covering it up, the approach should be very clear. You have to do one reading of this in detail. One reading will give you a complete picture, and there are very small chapters, guys. I'll tell you there are 15 pages, 20 pages, 15 pages, 20 pages chapters. So it's not something which will be a tough thing for you. Third, we have again strategic management process, which is planning. Especially, they've given a lot of examples of vision, mission, objective, and what are the different way you can formulate a strategy. So that is something which is important. Especially the concept questions are coming on vision and mission. There may be a question on drafting a vision, so you need to be aware of that. What are the keys, do's and don'ts, which has to be looked into. Then we go from, here we have stopped. We go from corporate, business, and function level strategy. So corporate level strategy, what the company can do. So whether the organization overall should focus on stability, should it focus on growth, should it focus on mergers and acquisition, inorganic growth, strategic alliances, should I cut down on companies or my loss making setup, or it can be a combination of any of the strategies. So these are all at the corporate level. Especially there are questions comes on growth strategy because there are subsets which are there, and as students, the expectations is you understand it well. At business level, friends, we have some generic strategies and best cost providers. We have some competitive strategies for businesses, how we can do it, what are the things which you can work it out. Functional level strategy, it is more on each function. So marketing, they have Michael Porter's. On financial strategy, what is the kind of costing perspective, what you can do it, cost per best cost, all of that thing will come. Operations, how do we run operations? Human resource, how to attract the best talent, and research and development. Then organization strategic leadership, which is more to do from a perspective of organization structure, your different types of organization structure, metric structure, what is there, and how SBUs and other things can help you with that. Here, friends, I wanted to mark one very important point where some questions are expected this time. Entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. Entrepreneurship is basically when you go out and start a new venture or new organization. Intrapreneurship is basically more from perspective you are still within the company, and within the company you're acting as an entrepreneur who is basically doing stuff. Okay. And last but not least, strategy implementation and control, which is how you do it. And here, friends, I wanted to focus on two terminology very importantly: strategic audit and business process reengineering. So how the strategic audit has to be done, and business process reengineering is basically nothing but radical change in the way you are trying to do it, so that you can actually have effectiveness maybe 30-40%, 50% also. It should not be 5%, 3% improvement. It should be a very radical change in the whole thing, so which we can take care of it. And there is something which we call as benchmarking, which is nothing but marking on a bench. No, not really. It's basically setting up a standard and trying to see how we are meeting the standards or not, and take that forward. So friends, this is all in the old scheme which we should be aware of. Okay, sorry, in the new scheme which is we should be aware of. Now let me take you the old scheme, guys. Okay, any question on this, feel free to let me know, guys. I'm not sure if I was very fast because I want to have some time in the end for Q&A. So feel free. Any questions which is there. Okay, let me just open it here. So guys, I hope you can see this screen. Yeah. Now this is the IPC course, which is there. It has also a 5 chapters are there. Uh, so in information technology, friends, I would say the content is very less for you. So you can have a good time, guys. Don't worry about that. Just focus, friends. You will be able to, score a very good marks out there. Okay. So what are the 5 things which are there? First chapter is all about, we call as, BPM. So there are some changes which was there. I'm not going to all these things. I'll directly go into the syllabus for you. And there are some points which are there from perspective of how you can score good marks. The whole idea is good because they will tell you what are the things which we need to focus on. Okay. Now, what is the thing which has changed from new scheme and old scheme? Now, first chapter is more or less your main chapter 1 and 2 out there. It basically covers all the business processes which is there. It talks about BPA. Now, BPA, a lot of content of BPA, there are 8 steps of BPA which has been removed from new scheme, but still there in the old scheme. Okay. I would highly recommend you to basically go through it. This 8 steps of BPA automations are something which is there. And flowchart, friends, I should show you the example of flowcharts. For you, flowcharts are very important and we need to actually cover it up in detail. Okay. So there are decision tree flowcharts, and flowcharts in chapter 1 is something which we need to do that. Okay. Second chapter is little technical for you, but I would tell you some part which you can remove totally. It stores information systems and IT fundamentals. So friends, when you are talking about this chapter, there is something which is there from concept of computing, some terminology on IEEE and all things. Please delete it up. Don't even read that part. It's not required. It's unnecessary. You will be going mad. You start from overview of IS layer. Please underline this part. From here, you should start going through it. The first part, which is there on triple I and all the things, I know it is there. Please ignore it up. Don't even go through it. Okay. So you start with application layer. Whatever is told as component there is told as application layer. So it's little different here from software, hardware is there, network is there, database and application. Same thing people are having maintained. What is different is they have talked about some terminology like servers, client server architecture, emerging computing architectures which are there. Cloud computing has been added here also. It is there in chapter emerging tech also. So this part is something very important you need to know. It is all mixed up here for you. Okay. So don't get a little confused in chapter 2. It's a very easy chapter, but only thing which we need to be careful about is how you are trying to go through. Is there a lot of redundant information which you can ignore? Chapter 3 is very technical, and I would request you to read it very carefully, maybe 2-3 times, because here it will be all fundamentals of telecommunication. You can take some help from internet also, YouTube and other things to understand the concept of LAN, WAN, wireless thing, how decentralized architecture works, client server architecture works. Okay. And these are the things which you can actually look into, guys. Huh? So please be careful in terms of working on that and see the terminology which is there. Like I just want to underline it. This network fundamentals, control standard protocol, SMTP protocol, POP3, TCP/IP protocol, all these terminologies are there. And friends, don't get carried away from the technical terminology. Each of them has a very easy understanding which is there, and our institute has done a very good job in making it simple. So my focus would be you should not go or get carried away. Oh, this is something which is very focus on that. Okay. Then come business information system. This is your chapter 2 and chapter 5 of new scheme, which is nothing but it talks about ERP, core banking system. It's a very simple chapter, guys. Only some content is there. Only thing which is maybe require you to have some time is MIS, DSS, business intelligence. All this area you can actually focus on. And the last part is on business process automation through application software, where you are actually chapter 1, there are 8 steps are given of BPA. Those 8 steps will be explained in chapter 5. This is the very interesting thing what our institute does. Some part is in chapter 1, some part is chapter 5, sorry. But this is something which is important. And here you will be talking about application control and ITGC, which is there in new scheme in chapter 3. Okay. And also, friends, we need to look into emerging concept, which I've already explained: virtualization, grid computing, cloud, and cloud delivery model. I have a request, but when you're reading cloud, most of the students do difference in cloud delivery model and cloud architecture. They are two different animals, guys. There is something called SaaS, PaaS, and software as services, platform as services, and infrastructure as services. So they are different thing. And then we have delivery model, which is private cloud, public cloud, community cloud, and hybrid cloud. So please understand all the differences carefully before you are answering it. Okay. So these are the 5 chapters which are there, friends, for you. And I am sure you can do very good in this thing because it's a very simple one and it will not require you much problem. SM, again, it is much easier compared to the thing. It is actually only 7 chapter, guys, which are there. Okay. And they have given even the study plan. Please follow the study plans. It will be helpful. And the contents are always there. Okay. So we start with business environment. It's much easier out here. So it will talk about environmental analysis. What are the different things, macro, point and macro environment. What are the things we need to look into? It is more detailed. And in the new scheme, they have deleted a lot of part, but we have to cover it up because we are part of the old scheme. Focus on element of macro and macro environment in chapter 1, especially passive analysis and all the things, which is becomes very important from a perspective of what we are trying to. Chapter 2, guys, talk about business policy and strategic management, which is how your strategic management done, what is the corporate strategy, what are the vision, mission, objective, which was divided into other chapter. So this is the second chapter, which is easy. Now, third one is VVIP chapter, guys. I would say mark it as VVIP. SWOT, TOES, portfolio analysis. These are all the important questions comes from that. So here we talk about how do you do a competitive analysis. So you talk about SWOT analysis, how SWOT and TOES are different. SWOT analysis and TOES metrics, which one is better? That kind of questions I'm expecting. And portfolio analysis, which is BCG, growth share metrics, which is all about cash cow, dogs, and all that kind of concept. And sub product market growth metrics, ADL metrics, all of the things has to be looked into. This is also there in the new scheme. Then we have strategic planning, which is what are the different types of alternative way we can actually do this. So best cost provider, mergers and acquisition, types of mergers we can do that. And here in C, we have more of functional strategy. There it was corporate, business, and function. Here it is directly going to the functional strategy on what you can do in marketing, what you can do in finance, and all the thing. And chapter 6 is all about implementation control. I told you, especially checking it out, what kind of organizational structure you can have. So you have functional structure, divisional structure, strategy business unit, and other things. Okay. And last but not least, friends, it's reaching strategic edge. Now here, 3 things are important. First, BPR, very, very important for all of you. It is not so important in the new scheme, but it's very important for the old scheme. Second, TQM, total quality management. What it is nothing but a principle of PDCA, plan, do, check, act, which you can actually put it up there. And last one is called 6 Sigma, which is nothing but a continuous improvement thing. And we need to be aware of these things. So this is what, friends, is covered as part of your strategy management. So friends, from old scheme also, there is a very interesting thing. So Sampath sir has a question. As an auditor, what are the questions to be taken in performance audit of information technology of a big corporate? Sir, you have to, Sampath sir, if you are trying to do that, the first thing you need to take care of that is, understand the environment, understand what are the risk control metrics they have created. They would always have a risk control matrix, just like we have risk control matrix in your chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the material. You have to look into what we call it as whether there are, proper checks, controls being put into place, and all the controls are operating properly or not. And as an auditor, we have to see not just like there is a kind of term we call it control design effectiveness and operating effectiveness. This is for new scheme only. Old scheme, this terminology is not there. Design effectiveness is whether the controls design is correct. Like let's say, for example, physical security, there is a security guard. Now I have put a security guard as per the design of the control. There should be a security guard. It is good. But when I go there, there is no security guard. That it means operation of the control is not there. So I hope Sampath, you have understood it right, sir. So those are the points which you have to do it. And you have to also say ITGCN application control. You will be checking it out there. Okay. So focus from that perspective. So there are some case studies questions, friends, which you have to be very careful. And that's why, once again, I am just trying to tell you the MCQ and our institute material, there is a kind of a case scenario booklet. It is very, very important. You please cover it up. I have seen most of my students, they are doing pretty good, but when it comes to case scenarios, they go bonkers. I don't know why. So these are the, there is a kind of a case scenarios, different types of questions are there. Please go through that both from a perspective of SM as well as your, EIS. So we have that thing. So that would be very, very helpful, and that would add a lot of value out there. Okay. So friends, this is all from my side. I just thought I'll keep my last 15-20 minutes for any kind of questions, any kind of query you may have. Uh, few things I just wanted to summarize once again. Please remember one thing and one thing only. EIS and SM, both are very, very scoring subject. Both of them are actually a very good subject which you can score really well. I would say scoring something around 63 marks is very easy. More than that, it will be tough. But 63 marks in EIS, both old scheme and new scheme, is easy. Why I'm telling you is that SM is a kind of a subject. 20 marks of MCQ. I would say easily you can get 15 to 18 marks, because I'm just giving you 2 marks also that away. But you should be scoring everything because MCQs are very easy. Now, what is left out is what we have to understand from the perspective of expectation. Both old scheme and new scheme, when you are presenting your answers, be very careful. Don't write to the point answers. A lot of students write to the point answers and they expect marks. You need to rank it up. How much marks has been allocated? 1.6 is the standard thing we call it. Is not 1.8. Don't go by the weight. 1.6 minutes per question, because you require some time for revision and all the thing. That is how we should be allocating the time to the subject, and then we can actually do justice to them. And also, friends, please make sure when you are presenting the paper, follow all the guidelines of institute. Students sometimes lose marks because they are either in a very hurry to answer the question. They don't read the question carefully. They'll read half question, say, oh, I know that, let me write it up. Don't do that. Or second, they will actually write some wrong answer for the question, and then it was not going to match that. You need to understand, in this competitive examination, they should always try to confuse you. So your focus should be how I can very calmly and do the subject. I know we are in a pandemic situation, but I'm sure it is going to improve. When you're going there also, please follow all the precautions, guys. You guys are very important, not just for institute, for your family, and for us, all of us. So please do follow the precautions and do a good job. Go aram, say chill out and write the examination. Only thing is that you still have time, prepare it well. At least, even if you have done whatever way you're prepared, give one reading to the material which I've mentioned it up. It will help you score a very good marks. And if there are very tough subjects which are there in CA, this extra mark can help you there, friends. And that should be my approach always, that you should see where you can actually score a better marks and where you can score less mark. This is a very easy subject. Yes, it is logical. Sometimes it becomes a little technical, but even costing is technical. Even advanced accounting is technical. If you just focus on that, friends, you'll be able to do a very good job. Okay, so that's all from my side, friends. Any questions, any query, feel free to let me know. Okay, let me also 1 minute. I'll just share my.
Priti, if you see some questions, please read it out for
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. Okay. There was some 2 questions from Sampath sir which I have answered, but any other questions, feel free to let me know. But friends, the only thing which is there is, I know many times we feel that it's a little technical subject and it's a tough one and all thing, but with little bit of focus, we can actually do a very good job in terms of managing it up, and that is something which is important for all of us to follow. Okay, I'm just sharing my contact detail. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer it. Maybe I'll answer a little late, but I will, surely answer you with that. And wish you all the best for your examination, friends. And look forward to you to come out with flying colors and being a final student. Then. Okay, great. That's all from my side, sir. Any other questions, sir?
I think there are no questions as such. So it was a splendid session, sir. Actually, one thing what students should be actually looking in for this particular subject is they'll be writing the exact answer as per the CA Institute material, but the question is different, as you were saying,
Yes, sir.
and that is what has had happened for me in my mock test paper, and then somebody who corrected my paper wrote that your answer is exactly right, but marks is equal to 0.
Oh,
Yeah, so your answer is right. Say, for example, the question was for advantages of ERP, but I had written features of ERP. All full points about features of ERP I had written, but the answer question was about advantages
advantages.
of it. Yeah, so this is what is actually, and then students are very good in their, I mean, system related the things they practically do, but just in case if this can be taken up properly and as focused as you were saying, they'll be doing it very well, and then this subject will be future. I mean, this is what I can say because uh, physical audit and then bank audit, IT audit, and then sorry, income tax audit, and all those things will be vanishing away after some time, but this is going to be the future. So show interest from now onwards, and then you will be getting into a very good career as such. That's what I wanted to tell. And then if there are no other questions, and then we'll say thank you, and then we'll close. And do you see any questions, Shruti?
No, sir.
Okay, 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 right.
Sure,
So,
sir.
yes, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable time, for sparing almost 2 hours of your valuable time for the students, and definitely students will get benefited out of it, and as to how smartly they need to approach for this particular subject and then get through this. So, all the best to all the future chartered accountants. Thank you so much for attending, and then I personally thank Anand sir for being present here
Thank you, Bajraj, sir.
uh,
Thank you very much.
on behalf of Sikasa Bangalore and then Bangalore branch of SISF SEI. Thank you so much, sir. Happy
Thank you.
learning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And great. All the best to all the students, all the future. Thank you. Bye.